Hello, I'm Melanie Risdin with the Western Standard. Thanks for joining me. And also joining me is Josie Martin. She is a Canada Post employee, as well as the founder and one of the contributors with Posties for Freedom. Now, if you are unaware yet, Canada Post employees, obviously through the federal mandates with the vaccine passport, have had restrictions on employees who have chosen to either not show their vaccine status or have chosen to be unvaccinated. They have been put on leave of absence without pay since November 29th, 2021. And so this group has been born out of that, Posties for Freedom. Thanks for joining us, Josie. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about the circumstances that brought sounds like hundreds of employees together.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Melanie. And so we started doing calls around the November timeframe, and we just saw this need for support throughout the community. So we started just hosting Zoom calls and trying to get our story out there and trying to get our friends connected with each other and to ensure that our colleagues and our peers were supported through this process. We didn't see this kind of action from the employers, so it was a lot easier to do it ourselves and be there for them. And we also didn't see this kind of, reaching out from any of the unions at Canada Post. So it was really, it really became a family out of this.
Right, and so it looks like from what I've read, several thousand Canada Post employees were placed on leave without pay when this vaccine policy was put in place, and that has yet to be lifted.
That's right. The announcement came out last week, and it was on Monday of last week that we had heard some rumors, and then Tuesday afternoon they had their conference, and we were a bit shocked when we started getting automated phone calls last Thursday telling us that we would be welcome back on an orderly and safe transition on their time frame.
So you still are sort of unaware, or you don't know whether you're going to be invited back. You don't know when. People just are not getting answers from this federal agency yet.
They've sent a communication stating that they're working to suspend the practice. Again, Canada Post is called a practice, not a policy. But they're working to suspend their vaccination practice, and that they will do so in a safe and orderly transition back to work. So they have indicated that they will be bringing people back to work, but they've also been very cautious as to the wording that they're using, and they're stating this is a suspension of the practice, and all employees have received a robocall, like I said, that they will be welcome back at some point, but we have not received any other communication as to what dates. It just said to wait for a call from your team lead.
Right, and you haven't received that call yet.
Personally, I've received the call from the robot, but a lot of people have yet to receive any phone calls from their team leaders. A lot of people have reached out to their team leaders via text or by phone, and some have gotten some answers, but they have not. Nobody's been told what the return to date would be, or return to work date would be. Sorry.
Right. Now, speaking of the terminology that's being used with regard to the federal vaccine mandates, the word suspension would suggest that the vaccine mandates are now customary, like the norm, and so a suspension of the norm, right, would be these instances where the unvaccinated can now fly. Workers, federal workers can now be returning to work. But you're right, that terminology of suspended versus lifted or abolished, I think has a lot of people concerned.
Yes, our group is very concerned. Our group is concerned not only for our group, but we're also concerned for the other Canada Post employees, right? So we have a feeling, we assume that this was a test to see, what kind of compliance they can get from employees within the workplace, and we can see that most employees did comply with this. And so we're concerned because this may be lifted for a period of time, but what happens when something happens in the fall time, if there's a new strain, if there's a new variant, we as employees feel we are at the mercy of these mandates, and this was never part of our original work contracts. Some of us have been working for this company for over 20 years. Some of us have perfect records with this corporation and have never even had any incidents at work. And so for the corporation to punish employees and put them on leave without pay, and then for them to, just simply send a robotic call to welcome us back, and after they've created, in my opinion, this atmosphere of division, and they're fostering this sort of division we're seeing in the workplace, and fostering these employees who think that working next to an unvaccinated person or somebody who didn't want to disclose their status, God forbid, would hurt them or their family. So they've fostered this sort of environment in the workplace. And I mean, how do we go back from all of this right now? It's very difficult for us to understand, and then for us to not feel that this is not going to come back in the fall. And I just, it's very disappointing how this is all playing out. It's very disappointing to be an employee, to have my corporation that I've personally worked for 14 years choose a policy over, the safety and the health of their employees.
Well, and especially considering when you're looking at the statistics now, and you're seeing that really the statistics are showing that there is not a large difference in the chances of catching and or carrying or spreading COVID-19, whether you are vaccinated or not. So I think that, that has to at some point come into the narrative. That has to sort of start driving decisions and policy when truthfully you can go into work and you can catch COVID from the person standing next to you, whether they are vaccinated or unvaccinated, right? Like the carrying that has been sort of well shown that I know that the idea is that the vaccines offer better protection for severe outcomes and whatnot, but still, when it comes to transmitting to the people that we are working side by side with, I think that has to enter the conversation at some point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Again, it's all about the atmosphere that's been fostered in the work environment, workplaces, and the division that's been created. And I think Posties of Freedom has come from a place of unity and love and freedom of choice. So it's difficult for us to see beyond anything else. But I do want to share that once these employees are returning to work, it's not just, hey, come back to work now and everything's going to be okay. I mean, these employees are looking at thousands of dollars in arrears and pension payments that they would have had to, that they have to give back to the corporation. Some employees have quote unquote quit or resigned from their position under duress and are receiving invoices from Canada Post saying that they owe them money because of pensionable arrears and the benefits and everything. And so I find it extremely hard to understand how our corporation can put in a policy that puts its employees on leave without pay by force because we weren't given a choice, and then turns around and says 7 months later, like, oh, okay, we're allowed to bring you back to work. However, when you come back, you're going to have thousands of dollars in debt. And the people that are on leave without pay, they're receiving paychecks with negative $700, negative, amounts, because again, all of these, employee benefits and everything have to be paid back. And when you're an employee that didn't ask for this leave, it's so depressing to be treated this way and to have all of these On top of the coercion and everything that we deal with on everyday society, Canada Post respected provincial regulations when it was good for them. They respected federal regulations when it was, when that's what they wanted to respect. There has not been any consistency since November or since even October with this. The masks were coming off in all of the provinces, but in Canada Post facilities, you still had to wear them. And so, we have continuously reached out to, the executives, to management, to find out, what is the difference between, being federally regulated and provincially regulated, and what science do you have that supports the continuance of these masks and the continuance of these mandates, even though they're lifting provincially. We never got any clear answers. It's been very difficult for employees that want answers, that just want to see some data, that just want to understand how these decisions are being made. What kind of data are you looking at when you're making these decisions? And do you know the impact that it's having on your workforce? And do you care?
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to go back to what you were talking about with these outstanding benefits and pensionable, how that's been accruing. And so essentially what you're saying is that although you've been put on leave without pay, the company is still charging you for benefits, or like, do you even have access to your benefits while you're on leave without pay? Is that the case?
We don't have access. So 30 days after you're put on leave without pay, you lose access to your dental and your vision. And then, the health prescriptions continue to go on, but you have to pay that portion. As an employee, you have to pay the employer portion. And then on top of that, you're also in charge of making sure, because, every 2 weeks when we receive a paycheck, technically when we're working, we have to make a pension contribution. And so does the employer. And so while we're off, we're expected to make our contributions for not getting paid. Like, it just doesn't make any sense for us. Like I said, a lot of us are getting a paycheck with a negative on it, and we're just so confused, and we don't get any answers. And when we ask, it's just like, oh, well, we'll look into it. And it takes months to rectify things. And it's like I said, it's very difficult and very depressive for employees that are in this situation.
Now, your unions, they are not, the union is not supporting employees with this. I mean, it seems incredibly, as you mentioned, very frustrating to know that you are sort of being billed for things that you are not able to access, and while you are not being, gainfully employed. Are the unions being supportive at all in helping you?
I think the unions are being supportive on paper. I think that they're putting this perception out there that they're doing something to help their membership, and that the divide is so great and the fracture is so great that, there's not much they can do. I think when the biggest unions at Canada Post has put an arbitration in, and, we have gone through this arbitration, and with a fine-tooth comb, we feel the experts that they used were not real experts. We felt that the people that they had, quote unquote, defend their membership in one of the most dire scenarios we have all been as employees, were not there to represent the employees. It's almost as if they were agreeing during some of the papers, some of the arbitration decisions that we're reading. It's almost like they were arguing about what's a better way to do this. Is it through testing, or is it forcing everyone to get vaccinated? And that's not the arguments here. And so again, it's just so disheartening for employees and membership who pay into these unions. Like, these unions are millions of dollars every year that get generated from their memberships, and some of them had a hard time getting their union dues waived for the period of time that they were off. So, these are all things that I think not many Canadians know that are going on. I mean, I'm sure a lot of Canadians know that people were on leave without pay. However, I don't think a lot of Canadians know that this is the kind of dynamics that we are dealing with as employees on leave without pay.
Now, with Posties for Freedom, looks like you have several hundred members that are part of this group. And because you are represented by unions, you can't seek other legal avenues to fight this.
So, at the beginning, we really allowed the process to take place. We really had faith that the membership and the unions were going to do the right thing. And as Christmas came on and we didn't have any word about anything, we had very little communication. It became quite apparent to me, and I'm not a unionized employee. However, 90% of Posties for Freedom is unionized employees. And, it just became apparent that it wasn't, going to be the outcome that we would have liked. And it just became apparent that we were going to start having to look for another solution to try to stand up for ourselves. So it was either, comply and just give in, or, continue to look for solutions. And so we hired Greywoke Spencer out of Cold Lake, Alberta to represent us, including all of our union membership. And we feel confident that that the claims and the allegations that we're making are outside the jurisdiction of the union at this point. And, the arbitration is over, and we just feel that it's the best thing for our group to seek some legal guidance and representation at this point. So, employees have no other options at this point.
Right. Well, certainly, I know that your lawyer is Leighton Gray, and I do communicate with Mr. Gray quite often. So why don't you keep us informed about how things are going, and I will certainly follow up with Mr. Gray as well to sort of follow how things are going, and just watch as the hopefully the federal mandates are lifted and more people can return to work, and then of course hopefully we'll see more action from the union. How can people find out a little bit more about Posties for Freedom, or perhaps there are postal workers that are watching this right now who would like to get involved with the group?
Yeah, so that was my main goal to do this today, was raise awareness, obviously, around, what employees are dealing with on leave without pay, not just postal workers, but all federal employees. But I also wanted to share that if you know somebody that works for Canada Post, or you're an employee of Canada Post and you've been negatively impacted by these mandates and by what's happened since November, to certainly go on postiesforfreedom.ca, sign up on our website. You can send us a message. We'll get back to you very quickly, and we are accepting posties right up until the end of this week to join our legal action. And we want to say that we're also not just a legal action community, we're a community for support. We provide Zoom calls for employees. We are there for each other. We've grown to be a family. So any postie that is feeling outcasted, lonely, or doesn't know what to do, join our calls, join our group. You don't have to be in the legal action to benefit from what we're doing at Posties for Freedom. And I also would urge everybody that's watching this to please go to our website, postiesforfreedom.ca, and please help us through the donation page and our Give, Send, Go.
Well, thanks for the update on this, Josie, and appreciate you just wanting to bring awareness to something that I think is still affecting thousands, if not millions, of Canadians. And we will certainly follow along and touch base with you when things progress.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.